If you were a hockey fan in 1971-72, or have you been following us the last few weeks, you know that the financial dealings around the Vancouver Canucks have been a hot mess, it seems, forever. Things might have become a little clearer this week, or the waters may have been muddied even more. The Bank of British Columbia took over the purse strings of the Vancouver Canucks this week in return for lending the NHL team's ultimate parent some $3.5 million to pay off a debt to the Capazzi family of Vancouver. The bank got a director on the board. Under a revamped setup, the directors of Northwest Sports Limited, the corporate name of the Canucks, will be Tom Scallon and Lyman Waters from Medicor of the United States, the parent company that owns the club. They're the guys who basically received the loan. Vancouver businessmen Cy McLean and Coley Hall and the bankman will make up the rest of the board of directors. This will mean a 7-2 majority for Canadians on the board. Herb Capazzi, the man who negotiated his family's loan to Medicor, said these arrangements are designed to keep control of the Canucks in Canada, and we think that's a good thing. The Capazzi family is being repaid by Medicor with the funds now loaned to it by the Bank of British Columbia. The Capazzis will end up now with 99,000 shares in Northwest Sports under a clause in their own loan agreement, which provided that they should receive them at a price of $3.52 each. This is considerably less than the market price, which has been fluctuating, so we really don't have a solid price for that. The shares originally were held by 4 Canadians: Cy McLean, Coley Hall, plus Max Bell and Frank McMahon, who stayed on the board after the Medicor takeover. That's what made the count 7-2. Bell and McMahon have not played an active role in the affairs of Northwest Sports. Now, where does Frank McMahon's name sound familiar? Well, to me, I did remember it. When Foster Hewitt in the 1967 expansion made the presentation for the city of Vancouver to be included in the first grade expansion of the NHL, he was questioned by the governors of the NHL, the 6 pre-expansion teams. Where are the people that we know, like Frank McMahon? McMahon is a buddy of guys like Bill Jennings and the Adams family and the Norris brothers, more importantly. And they wondered why their good friend Frank McMahon wasn't on board with a Vancouver NHL team. Well, now he's on the board of an NHL Vancouver team. Saskatchewan sports columnist Bob Strum has a proposal for the National Hockey League to consider regarding alignment of the divisions. Bob writes that taking an outsider's look at the National Hockey League before we go into Christmas, he says, if I were Clarence Campbell, president of the league, I'd put serious thought into realigning the league's divisional system, probably along the lines of the old country soccer setup. And I think I've heard this before. I don't think we've talked about it, though. Progressional divisions would provide demanding incentives other than playoff spots and money. Plop the top 6 NHL teams, Bob says, into a first division with 4 to qualify for the playoffs. Have a look at the point spread as of now in the NHL. If Chicago, New York, Boston, Montreal, Minnesota, and Toronto were in the same division, 49, 48, 45, 45, 44, 38 in that order. That's 11 points between the first and 6th spot in that division. Shuffle the other clubs into a second division with 4 of the 8 to earn postseason spots in this lower grouping, and look at the race they'd have going there. California 27, Detroit 26, Philadelphia 25, Pittsburgh 25, St. Louis 23, Vancouver 20, Buffalo 20, and Los Angeles 15. Instead of the LA Kings being a distant 34 points out of first place, as they already are in the present Western Division, they'd be only a dozen away from first place in the so-called second division. The NHL scheduling would not have to be changed in the least. Each club could still play its 13 opponents an equal number of times. In that way, the fans in the second division cities would still get a look at the best players in the circuit. And for a little added incentive, Strum says he'd move the top 2 finishers in the second division up to the number 1 grouping each year and drop the bottom 2 clubs who didn't make the playoffs in the first down to the second grouping. There would be status at stake. There would be closer races for playoff spots. And there would be fewer arguments on parity because the obvious inequities presently would be a little less obvious, unless, of course, if you think about this. The Vancouver Sun's Bob Dunn tells us that the firing of Canucks coach Hal Laycoe must be imminent, and he puts out this evidence for us. First of all, he says at this point, the Canucks have lost 5 in a row, one short of the worst stretch in their first season. However, the 6 they lost consecutively last year were all on the road, and all the clubs that beat them at that time made the playoffs. Of the current 5 setbacks, 3 have been on home ice, 3 have been to Detroit and Buffalo, neither of which club is considered playoff material. An undetermined number of players have lost or are losing confidence in themselves because they're not getting enough ice time. They interpret it as a lack of confidence on the coach's part. Then there are suggestions being made, some of them in light of the Canucks' 2 losses this week, 5-1 in Buffalo, 3-0 to Detroit the previous night. The games were 2 of the more important ones, 4-pointers, as they say. So they're making a few suggestions. One, well, Laycoe's practices have been anything but tough. Surprisingly, in view of the loss to Buffalo Sunday, the practice in Detroit was basically a laugher. For both workouts this week, he ran proceedings from outside the ice surface in street clothes with a whistle, standing on a bench. He didn't even go on the ice. Neither workout lasted more than an hour. And one veteran NHL observer said that Laycoe, who spent more than a decade coaching in the Western Hockey League, that Hal Laycoe has failed to progress with hockey coaching's advances, and basically the game has passed him by.